So, the year is 1968, and I think we all know the story by now. Kennedy was president until he was not, so his brother ran until he was shot. Thus was the tale of Camelot. Robert F. Kennedy was larger than life. He was, in the words of his own brother,
be remembered simply as a good and decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, saw suffering and tried to heal it, saw war and tried to stop it.
In 1968, 5 years after the death of his brother John, Robert F. Kennedy ran for President of the United States, which is how most know him for today. Some know him for being the slain president's younger brother. Others know him for his years as Attorney General from 1961 to 1964. Today, he is lauded for his endeavors in advocacy for civil rights and aid for the poor. But there's an often overlooked part of him, his years as senator from 1965 to 1968. Yes, many know that he was senator, but not many actually know what he did in the Senate. Join me as we delve into the legislative career of Robert F. Kennedy as a way to sort of honor his legacy. On September 2, 1964, Robert Kennedy officially retired as Attorney General and joined the Senate race in New York. Becoming senator was tough though. Many locals loathed Kennedy's Senate campaign, viewing him as a carpetbagger, or a person who doesn't really relate to the area they choose to represent in politics. Still, Kennedy was a broadly loved figure, and he easily won the 1964 Senate election in New York. Okay, now let's get into what he did. It's important to note that Kennedy went through his first year in the Senate with an amendments-only train of thought, meaning he focused on only changing existing bills. Robert Kennedy advocated for gun control, sponsoring a gun control bill, alongside President Johnson and fellow Senator Thomas Dot, that would prohibit the sale of guns via mail order. Which was something you could just apparently do in America? As a foreigner, I am shocked. What's next? Ordering wives via mail? Anyways, the bill was passed, becoming part of the larger Gun Control Act of 1968. Unfortunately, it took Robert Kennedy's own death to make it pass. Kennedy fought for, and succeeded in the inclusion of some parts of New York to be in the Appalachian Regional Commission, which develops rural areas in the Appalachian Mountain Range. It was also in New York that Senator Kennedy helped in founding a successful redevelopment program for a poverty-stricken neighborhood in New York, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. A redevelopment program is basically a charity, a non-profit organization that aids in alleviating local communities and giving out aid to the less fortunate. The Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation oversees the neighborhoods it's named after, which was one of the poorest areas in New York, and was famously a melting pot of racial unrest and urban riot. The Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation helped in mitigating these effects, and the corporation itself became a trailblazer, becoming a sort of blueprint for other redevelopment programs. Finally, during his Senate career, Robert Kennedy traveled a lot. In 1967, he went to the Mississippi Delta and was outraged by the horrid effects poverty had instilled in the South. He toured Native American reservations and was deplored by the federal government's treatment of Native Americans, calling it a national disgrace. Kennedy went to California many times, meeting with labor activists Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta on many occasions. Most notable of his visits was in June 1966 when he visited South Africa, which at the time was undergoing its infamous apartheid regime. He fought the very notion of apartheid, saying, "Suppose God is black. What if we go to heaven and we, all our lives, have treated those who are black as inferior, and God is there and we look up and he is not white?" It was in this visit to South Africa that Kennedy was able to deliver what is considered one of the greatest speeches in mankind, his Ripple of Hope speech. Now, Robert Kennedy didn't quite pass any specific law or make specific policy, but what he did as senator showed something more human. You can easily write this off as early campaigning, seeing as his main goal as senator, after all, was to be president at a later date. And you know what? It's hard to deny that claim, and I won't try to. But whether or not you think that, it's important to note that his emotions, his advocacy, his stances, and his ideas, they were all legitimate. He wanted to have rights for minorities. He wanted to help the poor. He wanted a better America. But through tragedy, he was struck down early on in his life. Even though he never could really complete these goals, he tried to in the short time that he had. And many politicians around the world today have decades more time to try, but they often never do. Bobby Kennedy became a senator not for the job. He became a senator for the country. And I think that's what truly matters.